Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. It is now 12 o'clock, so I'm going to formally start today's session. And as you know, today's session is all around measuring for success. And today I'm joined by not one, not two, but three guests today. We're joined by, first of all, John Mason. And John has extensive experience in facilitation of learning programs across Europe. And these have centered around leadership, cultural change, performance management, and personal skills development. He's also joined by Tim Brind. Tim is Director of Performance Architecture, Modern Learning Design and Transformation. That's one heck of a job title. And Tim works to create human-centered design to ensure the production of innovative, user-centric learning experiences to create problem solving. And finally, Thomas Griffiths. Thomas has been involved in learning for over 7 years in learning and development, and which is spread across consultancy, design, development, and also implementation. And he's delivered various different projects, both from departmental projects to larger projects across global reach. Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed for joining us. John, I will hand over the virtual platform and the microphone to you. Thanks for joining us, guys.
Thank you, Michael, and welcome everyone all across the world. As Michael said, yeah, we're GP Strategies, and we're here to share some of our thoughts and approaches to modern learning design. And for us, that starts with a real focus on measurement. So that's what we're going to look at today, what to measure and how to measure it. And it also helps us credibly show our clients that their training spend is meaningful and that it's had a real impact. And that in turn helps us connect the learning to their business goals. And that gives us really true stakeholder buy-in. So, yes, you're joined today by myself, Tim, and Tom. I won't give you the titles again, but as you can see, we did shorten Tim's rather long title just to director. We couldn't actually fit it all on screen. But as well as our day jobs, you see we've got some other roles as well. I'm a bit of a swimmer. And more recently, I've incorporated both Tom and Tim to help me. In terms of why, well, I recently shared a story at the Learning Live event that was held in London a few weeks back. I shared a story about my goal to swim in the Olympics in 2024, how I can transform myself ready for that. I didn't make it this year, so I've been doing a bit of soul searching, and I've realised I'm a bit like many learning and development functions. I'm probably a little bit out of shape, and maybe I could do with improving my technique. And Tim and Tom, therefore, have been helping me, and they're helping me by sharing how they've been improving our techniques in GP Strategies using those fundamentals of modern learning so that I can incorporate them into my training design. So we talk about performance and measurement at GP Strategies, and we do it because we found that in learning and development, we generally have three things. One is learning, which we often want to be the result of another, which is training. But if we're honest, sometimes training is just training. It doesn't necessarily move the needle. It doesn't indicate that there's actually always been a behaviour change. And that's where the missing third piece comes in, because that's performance. What our people are doing on a daily basis. If we think about look at it in my flip-flops, I can do some training. I can do some basic cardio. I'll experience endorphins when I'm exercising, a bit of pain maybe when I'm recovering. And that means I'm learning about my body. And then when I do that every day, I'm not learning anymore, I'm starting to perform. But similar to learning and development, and also possibly similar to some of the learners that we design for, just because I've been doing something a lot doesn't necessarily mean that I've been performing it correctly, that I'm improving in the right ways. And that's where measurement comes in, how we make sure that what we're working towards is viable, tangible, and feasible. And it's important when we look at this, that we're improving and measuring in the specific areas that our stakeholders care about. Historically, maybe in learning, we've worked in silo in a way. We've often shared information. You can see it on screen there. We often shared information about things such as how many people have attended, compliance or pass scores, and those learner evaluation scores. They're kind of the smiley face ratings. But none of those necessarily mean that anything's actually changed for our stakeholders who we've created the training on behalf of. So for learning, we realise this traditional approach firmly stamps us as a cost centre. And that in turn can lead to other difficulties we've experienced. We find difficulties in changing stakeholder perceptions, maybe. They view us as an order taker rather than as a genuine partner whose counsel they seek. Or maybe we have problems gaining buy-in and investment to our proposals. Maybe they even just think that we're okay for some of the fluffy stuff, which is one of the most hurtful things I've heard, but I have heard it more than once. We ran some of these past our colleagues when we were at Learning Live just to see if it rang a bell, and it did with many of them. So it appeared to us we've all got these common challenges, and therefore maybe it is part of traditional learning and development, and that's why we need to evolve. So today's about taking a more modern approach, and that's exactly what Tim and Tom do, heading up our modern learning, design and transformation team. And this comes from getting performance and measurement right. And if we do that, we can turn learning and development into a revenue stream rather than a cost stream. There are traditional methods for measurement. We're going to bring up on screen here that many of you may recognise. Kirkpatrick model gave us a nice framework for measurement. Phillips added to it with the final stage. But what we've found, and again we've sense checked it, is if we're honest, few of us actually use it consistently. Few of us follow it through from stages 0 to 5 every time we do it. And maybe it's because by itself it doesn't give us the key elements. The what do you measure and how? Because if we do want to connect our learning to business goals, this what and how is key. We need to measure business data. We need to build a project that's got performance outcomes rather than learning outcomes, because that's what our stakeholders really want, isn't it? They want performance, and it's often performance in areas they've already defined. It might be an increased sales revenue. It might be decreased manufacturing waste. Whatever it may be, the list could go on and on, really. So we need to make sure we're focusing on performance outcomes. And therefore, we need to make sure that we're defining what good actually looks like. And we do that through discovery, by using consultation, data research, by really analysing what's going on in the business and where we can add value. It allows us to build a roadmap, which is what we call a measurement map. And at this point, we are going to give credit to our colleague, Bonnie Beresford. Bonnie created the measurement map, and it is a roadmap. Like I say, it visually connects the learner journey to business results. And by doing that, it connects the business to the work that we do in learning. And then for us, it also gives us the success criteria to help us guide projects. And those success criteria are generally the key performance indicators that are going to return the required performance outcomes. And if we do get this right, it changes to a revenue creator. So Tim's going to share a little bit more about this for you now.
Perfect. Thanks, John. Hi, everyone. So yeah, the measurement map itself is all about helping us achieve those performance outcomes, like John says. And performance outcomes is how and why we design for modern learning transformation at GP Strategies. But when we say that, there's really a couple of things that sit behind it, really key to the process. So that's co-design and co-development with our clients. Now, our clients are going to be our project stakeholders as well as our end users. Of course, the stakeholders are likely to be the people you already engage with in your business today. So your project sponsors and the budget holders. The end users, of course, are going to be the people that we ultimately design our products and services for. But what we really want to do in that process, especially when it comes to measurement, is involve both groups in the process. So, I mean, this isn't exclusive to L&D, but how many times have we seen the disconnect when that doesn't happen between what management think we need and what the end users actually want? So again, making everyone part of the bottom-up, top-down process through co-design is critical to create a measurement map. It's also pretty critical when it comes to performance. And the reason, like John said earlier, is because it's not fluffy. It's actually incredibly binary when we consider we either hit those performance metrics and succeed, or we don't and we fail. So what's that got to do with measurement? Well, let's bring it back to Kirkpatrick again. So the measurement map itself will link levels 1 to 5 with the business. Sounds really simple. So we're going to link 1 to 5 with the business, but how? And there's a couple of things we can do. So we've got our leading indicators and our business results. And we'll take you through an example shortly of exactly what this looks like. But let's take our investment in a new training program, or better still, a performance outcome-based program. But then we'll run our leading indicators and our business results to achieve that goal, that strategic goal. How do we do it? And why aren't we doing it already? Well, again, there's a couple of things that sit behind it. The research says that whilst 90% of us want to be able to measure, only 16% of us can and do. And when we dig into that a little bit more, there's two things that surface. So the first piece is around having the skills and the resources to work in that performance-led capacity. The second one is having the framework and the processes and the tools to be able to measure. So that's where the measurement map comes in. That's also why we've created the Measurement Academy, which opens up our processes and tools to enable you to do the same. So part of the Academy, you'll be able to create your own measurement plans, which will then execute your own measurement maps. If you've got the time after the talk, do stick around. We can post a link into the chat window and you can learn a little bit more about that. But back to you, John, to show us an example.
Yeah, so we'll briefly cover a simple example, and I've shared my goal about swimming in the Olympics, so we're going to stick with that. So the measurement map in a way is about reverse engineering from where you want to get to what you need to do to get there. So the first thing is you make sure you've got that strategic goal. My goal would be the Olympic gold medal. And then I need to be very clear on what are the results that I need to achieve that will ensure I hit that strategic goal, rather than just waiting until I turn up at 2024 Olympics. So there you go. You got some of them. I would need to do the 200 meters freestyle in about 1 minute 45 or less to be in with a chance, or I might want to do the 200 meters butterfly just under 2 minutes. Okay, so if I know those results, that means if I can hit those results, I know I'm going to start hitting my strategic goal. But I also need to make sure, what is it that's going to tell me I'm on the right way? What are the leading indicators that's going to help me create that achieve those results that are going to know that I'm on the right track? So there's all kinds of leading indicators. We've got a selection here. Not going to run through all of them, but I'll pick a couple. So, for example, breathing. I'd not really thought about breathing until I saw this and started training. But yeah, actually, if I want to hit the Olympic gold, I can only afford to take a certain number of breaths per lap, because every time I take a breath, it slows me down. So I need to make sure I'm measuring that. To know that I'm on the right track to do that, I also need to have a good idea about what my working heart rate is. Because if my working heart rate is not at the right level, I'm probably going to be burning oxygen too fast, which means I'm going to have to take more breaths and I'm going to slow down. And therefore, if I need to know that, I also need to be measuring, well, what's my resting heart rate like? I might even want to start looking at factors such as how many hours sleep have I had the night before, because all of those will impact my working heart rate. So by reverse engineering this way, it gives us this causal chain of events, and it therefore allows us to create a blueprint for my training regimen. Exactly what do I need to do that is going to drive those leading indicators? It gives us our approach to design, and it gives us a chain of events that we can monitor quickly as we go through. Rather than waiting for another 2.5 years, I can know if I'm on track as soon as I start training. So that's a simple example. What we're going to do now, we're going to do another simple example, and we've never tried this before, but we're going to try creating a measurement map with all of you. And I say we've never tried it before. We have created measurement maps before, but not with 120 people. So we're going to give it a go. So we thought we'd pick something that we're all probably familiar with, which is some kind of celebration day meal. Whether it be Christmas, Diwali, Eid, a birthday, whatever it may be. So we're going to ask you to contribute in a minute. So we started off thinking, right, if that's our strategic goal, what would be some of the key results? And we thought we'd help by defining those. Okay, so we thought the key results might be, first of all, is it served on time? People aren't sat there waiting, chewing on napkins or whatever it may be. So results served on time. Also, we thought we want to know of people enjoying themselves. So that would be another key result. Have they had fun, or that they have had fun? And then the other one is quality. So making sure that not just we've served it on time, people had fun, but we provided a good quality meal for people. So this is where we're going to ask you to help us out, really. Because if they're the results, we then need to start thinking about what are some of the leading indicators that we'd need to be keeping an eye on to ensure that we're going to start hitting those results. And if we hit those results, then we know we've had a successful meal. So using the chat box, please share, what do you think are some of the leading indicators we should be measuring that will tell us we're on track to achieve those different results? So they're flying in, so I'm going to be monitoring this. So yes, so there's if we think about a simple quantity, yeah, we need to know that there is enough food. So there's quantity of food. would be a key part of it. I can see there another one is, making sure we've got clear line of sight of the different dietary requirements. Both of those would definitely impact the enjoyment element of it. What else have we got? So they're flying in. I've got a small chat box because I want to see what's being built. Accurate cooking time. So the different cooking times for all the different foods, which potentially will feed into one or two. Either it's served on time, but also the quality. I can see them flying in, so I'm not sure we're going to get all of these in, but we'll keep trying. Leading in, enough staff. I like it, Tom. You mean maybe I need to rope in Tim and Tom on the day to help me? But do we have enough staff people? I can see bees raised another cooking time. We've got quantity of food. We've got freshness of food. We'll need some fresh ingredients. When we're getting our food, is looking at have we got enough. We might need to be looking at things such as those best before dates. Make sure that we're not serving out of date food. Size of oven. Well, I'm going to change that to right equipment or right quantity of equipment, because it could be the oven. It could be making sure we've got enough pots and pans. Maybe have we got enough hobs? So we'd need to be measuring, making sure that we know what the right quality of equipment is. See cooking times. We might need to understand. Got a few. We've got allergies. We've got. Yes, I can see Tom's ahead of me there. Thank you. Comfort of seats, number of seats. I don't know what it's like for you guys, but there's always sort of one member in my household over the years. There's always been one person on a kitchen stool towering over everybody else. Brussels sprout sales. We need to make sure everything's going to be in stock, or when's the last date for us to buy certain things, Brussels sprouts or others. We might want to be measuring. Thank you, Mayvon. Amount of food consumed. That would be a good indicator towards the end that we'd be looking to measure.
We've got wine in there, John.
Yes, Tim and I were having a little discussion about how long wine. Yes, amount of wine. Preparation time as well for Ben. Tim was going for wine with our discussions when we were thinking what people come up with. I was thinking preparation time, Knowing how long something cooks is one thing, but actually how long do I need to put ahead of that? When are the start times that I need to peel those potatoes or whatever it may be? Good atmosphere. So we might need to understand. We've got things like, have we purchased the right number of crackers? I'm not sure whether atmosphere would lead to lighting, might lead to music, or it might simply link back to the amount of wine that we put to one side. I think we're going to have to pause there, although considered COVID restrictions, yes, we might be sat outside. In fact, I think I was sat outside on Christmas morning last year, hopefully not this year. Fantastic. So we're going to have to stop there. We could go on and on and on. And what we're seeing here is, this is exactly what we'd do. We'd start looking at what all the different things that we need to be measuring as we're moving forward to get the right number of results. What we'd then need to do is we'd then need to start looking at causal chain of events, which Tom's going to start creating for us there, recognizing that some of the indicators we'll have might sit kind of at one side of the grid, whereas others will be at the forefront. Meaning that actually, I was looking at the one that always makes sense to me would be the prep time, cooking times, cooking start time. So yes, that's a direct chain of events. I need to know what time I have to start prepping each of the individual items. And I know if I've hit that benchmark, that tells me that I can then start cooking each item on time, because I will then know how long each cooking time it will be ready. And that will tell me, once I've hit that indicator, all of the food is going to be ready on time. And then we might have one at the end, which might be plating time, or getting enough staff to make sure that they're plating it up on time.
There's a lot there. I think we got there just about, John.
I think we did get there just about. I'm just going to let Tom do a little bit more work because I'm not good at planning meals. So if you put it in the right order for me, Tom, that will save me a lot of time later. So as you can see, as you start building this, you'll end up with causal chains of events that will lead to specific indicators. Thank you, everyone, for contributing towards. As I said, we've never really highlighted it. So I can see there's a question coming in. Oh, it's just disappeared off my screen again. So just to clarify, the lead indicators, the key milestones, similar to project management. I mean, Tim and Tom, I'm going to throw over to you because I would say possible there will be key milestones within it, would be my view, but there will be other indicators that aren't necessarily key. But the key milestone, we'd also need to be monitoring the indicators before it, because if we've missed those, we'll know we're going to miss the milestone. But this is your speciality, Tim.
It's a good question. So what we really want to do, so today was a bit of fun, I guess, trying to use the measurement map and just introduce the concept to you so you can see how everything compounds and builds up to achieve the end goal. To answer the question around, is it a key milestone? What we really want to put on the measurement map itself are metrics. So if we can measure it, it should be on the measurement map. Now, to use this example, it could be the volume of food consumed or the number of drinks drunk, or it could be a quality, a satisfaction score around the quality. So there's lots of things we could measure. So it wouldn't necessarily be traditional project milestones we'd put on there, but metrics relating to the performance outcomes we need to achieve. Ultimately, a lot of things do come back to time, quality, and cost. They're not always the metrics we'd see. We often see metrics around waste elimination, speed to competency, and you begin to build a picture of the context of the business and the project. So we're just reframing it slightly different, I guess, from a traditional format into things that can be measured that we map to performance.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. That tells us exactly when we're designing whatever it is that we're designing. It might be an event, it might be a series of initiatives that we know exactly design it to achieve those different indicators, those KPIs. And I know Tim's, I don't want to steal on your thunder, so I'll just mention it briefly. Sometimes when we're doing this, we'll also identify some of those key performance indicators aren't learning problems, or possibly the solution isn't a learning solution, and therefore that gives us other avenues.
Yeah, exactly, which we'll cover shortly. So I guess to give this this meal example a bit more context, John's got another one which we can take you through, which is more business orientated. So I think some of that will probably become a little bit clearer.
Yeah, so thank you for that and for working with us. So this is just a simple one. It's a business format. We've gone for sales training because it's often something that most people will understand or might have seen. Companies may have a strategic goal to increase market share and profitability. So yeah, we start reverse engineering and making sure, well, how are we going to know we're hitting that? And you'd often have sales volume and gross profits. And then again, so what do we need to know we're achieving to hit total sales volume? So we might have a number of new customers compared to repeat and referred customers. And then again, we work our way back into, we'll have leading indicators such as closing ratios. And we'll have a number of indicators that we can achieve to make sure that we're going to hit those closing ratios. And again, therefore, that would tell us this is what our training initiative, our learning program, our different interventions need to look like. There's some real beauties of this as we do it. One, it allows us to show our progress in leading indicators almost in real time. So a company doesn't have to, or a client or one of our business owners, they don't have to wait 3 months, 6 months, a year to know if they're increasing market share and profitability. They don't even necessarily need to wait to see the results coming in. If the first stage of leading indicators moving in the right direction, they'll know that their investment is having an impact. We'll be able to prove that our investment is having the desired impact. Also, because we've involved them in discussions, we've talked to them about their leading indicators. How will they know that they've achieved what we've achieved? We've involved them right from the start. We're talking their language. They understand what they're investing in. They understand what we're going to contribute. They understand the purpose behind it. So all of a sudden they've got a vested interest in that, not just how many people have gone through it and are they happy, how many people have gone through it and they're involving us in the discussions around the leading indicators. And this is why it's such an important tool for us. and it's such an important part of modern learning, design and transformation. It allows us to have a starting point. It gives us an opportunity and a methodology to go back and analyse where in learning we can make a difference. It allows us to have those meaningful discussions with stakeholders about what we're building and why. They really understand how investing in our work will help them achieve their strategic goals. And we get that buy-in right from the start, and the investment right from the start. So Tim's now going to share some further tools, processes, and top tips along with Tom in terms of what we do around this.
Great, thanks, John. So yeah, some really good pieces actually on that example, which I guess was a bit of fun, but kind of illustrated, like I say, the chain of events that we can measure through performance metrics. And like I said, a lot of them do come back to time and quality, very similar to a lot of the projects we would have designed previously. But I guess kind of to reframe it up and remember that we can always measure performance when we ask the right questions. And that does move us away from learning. Which is our first top tip. Move away from learning outcomes. And if we do that, we can begin to prove value, even create value. And we do that through proving the return through those performance outcomes. So what we find is if learning is still required, it will still be an outcome. But through using discovery, through learning to get closer to your audience and their needs and design a solution for them, you'll be aligning to the business and you'll be beginning to measure what really matters with results that then count. Secondly, I guess, is to understand and use any existing data you've got, because of course it's a lot easier to create a measurement map using a business framework that already exists. You'll likely have access to data already, HR, people data, and paint a picture there. And what does that tell you and how does that align to your training needs and strategy? What does that look like when we look at the wider business strategy? And then as you start to talk to the business stakeholders that are outside of learning, you begin to understand what their needs are and what drives their performance and outcomes. As you do that, you'll gain a fresh perspective on what's possible and also what's expected from both sides as well. Thirdly, close enough is good enough when it comes to data. I think there's a famous quote, which I can't remember, but even science is an approximation rather than an exact measurement. So we often get asked how to generate data or how to access data, especially even what do we measure? And I guess when you're starting out, remember that you're measuring to improve. And if you weren't measuring anything previously, then that itself is an improvement. If you can't get access to the data, I mean, that's something we happily can help you with. But remember this, probably because we're not asking the right questions. Data, of course, itself is a hybrid skill now. So learning capabilities such as how to root cause issues or data correlation is really going to help you as a skill on your journey here within measurement. Number 4, we've mentioned it a couple of times, but measure what matters. Talk the same language as your stakeholders. Increasing safety training by, let's say, 12% tells a very different story to preventing 21 injuries, but it's the same data just told differently. So we strive to understand our end users' needs and their goals. So why not do the same with our stakeholders? Let's get close to them. Let's make them part of that process and measure what counts. The 5th and final tip is around collaboration, and that's really key to this whole approach, which we've tried to show today. So measurement and performance will help you reveal blind spots within the business, and you'll be able to join some of those dots internally as well. Now, you won't be able to do this alone, but you will need to facilitate and co-design with your stakeholders and your end users. As you start to involve other areas of the business, you'll also gain their trust and you'll create a solution which really they're part of and which talks to them. Involving them through that process as you co-design. And you saw us use a Miro board earlier. That's really key to kind of our approach. So an online collaboration tool. There's plenty out there. We like I say, we use Miro, but everything from design through to research and workshops is a really integral part of our process. So yeah, I guess just to summarize, co-design with your business partners and end users, research their needs and make them front and center to your solution. So I guess that's our top 5 tips around measurement and performance. But Tom's got some final points before we hand it over to you for questions.
Cheers, Tim. So yeah, it's just 3 kind of key takeaways, really. First of which on here, that data is absolutely critical to creating those measurement maps. But it's also kind of critical to our modern learning design as well. So kind of our transformation always starts with discovery, using that kind of research to build a picture of the business, build a picture of the stakeholders and the end users. So can't stress enough knowing your audience, so you can kind of design those solutions using that data. You'll be able to use that same data to understand the business, be able to create the measurement map, as I've said, and then that's going to guide your kind of project. It's going to close that loop on what you originally kind of set out to achieve, but always start with discovery. So that's the first one. Secondly, using data and human-centered design. That means you'll be equipped to tackle problems beyond learning. And we often find it's kind of processes, communications, tech, or even infrastructure that are the answer before learning is. But through that data, we always know we can kind of increase performance, and that has a much bigger impact than learning alone. So it's realizing if you just look at learning outcomes, you're only ever going to solve learning problems. We've identified different causes rooted within organizational design and operating models. It's okay to challenge the business when you've got that data. And I guess that leads me on to my third point, which is how you present your findings to them. So when you kind of take that modern learning approach that's performance-based, you're going to be armed with your own data and your own research. You should be able to articulate kind of a deep kind of understanding of the business, and you'll also be able to kind of validate and illustrate that through your findings as well. And that's critical to unlocking kind of the potential of measurement and then solving more and more complex problems. So before we hand back to you guys for questions, I'm going to pass back to John just to cover off a couple more points.
Cool, thank you, Tom. So yeah, just to confirm what we talked about, the key messages for us are, it's about improving strategic alignment of learning to the business. And we do that through focusing on performance and performance outcomes. It's about helping us get buy-in from our stakeholders. We do that by measuring what they care about. And if we can use, as Tim said, if we can use existing KPIs out in the business, then that's even better. It gives us a blueprint for design so that we can improve our training spend and possibly even prove that our training spend is having the impact that our stakeholders want. And then we just covered some of the other tools, processes, technology, and top tips to best use when modern learning. We are going to open for questions now. So first of all, thank you for listening to us. I'm going to say that I've been following some of the discussions around leadership training that started. I saw Tova raised a question, some great contributions. I think there was an answer from yourself, Tova, and also Andrew gave an answer. And it also ties in with that question that's just been put in there. I'm Margie Kennedy, apologies Margie if I've not pronounced that correctly, about shifting mindsets in organisations where you just want to tick a box. I think Andrew sort of answered it to an extent. For me, it would be part of that discovery phase, the analysis, is we need to understand our stakeholders. What are you trying to achieve? If they're asking for, we want leadership training, why? How will you know if it's been effective? Trying to push them to give us metric skills that they're trying to measure. And if it's skills that they give us, again, trying to push them to agree to what are the metrics that will tell us we're both happy that we've achieved what we're looking to achieve. And where Tim was talking about close enough is good enough, sometimes for those potentially more qualitative items, it is agreeing what the metric is going to be. It might not be an absolute metric, but it's going to be, sometimes close enough is good enough because we recognise that's all we can do. But as long as we agree with our stakeholders up front, they'll agree with it.
I'd agree. We often get asked that question a lot. How do you measure soft skills? How do you measure leadership? We even got asked, how do you measure psychological safety? And so it is a really good question. It comes up a lot. And it is about, like John says, defining what good is. What is good leadership? What do you need? What are the results you expect to see from a good leader? But until you've defined what that is, what success looks like, you won't get a metric from it. So we very much need to know, have those conversations around, first of all, what is good leadership, and then we can put a framework and some metrics around it. Is it how to diffuse a situation, conflict? Is it how to, there's lots of skills which can compound the tasks that go into it. So yeah, there's some good questions popping up.
I'm just going to say, Tim, another one from Margie there, talking about shifting the organisation's mindset where they just want to tick a box. I'm going to throw it back to you, but it did make me think about phrases that yourself and Tom have used quite a lot in terms of training elimination and waste elimination, and having those conversations with people.
Yeah, it's another big one. So I guess why do we measure? To prove the impact, prove the ROI. If the business, I think there's two things that go into that, why you'd want to change the mindset around that if you're not already there. I mean, I think modern learners expect a good learning experience, a good user experience, and I think ticking a box doesn't do that. We've got consumer grade technologies now. We expect the same in our work lives, and we're starting to see that with the apps and LXPs that become available. So I think it's a bit lazy to assume users don't want that approach. I think we can build that approach in our learning experiences. And I think the results are the performance outcomes that you achieve as a result. Like we say, they won't necessarily be learning outcomes, they'll be more performance driven. And when the stakeholders, when the business leaders begin to see those results, that's where that mind shift comes.
Cool, thank you, Tim. Especially because I threw that one over to you as well. I'm just checking if we've got any other questions coming up. There's a lot of chat, some great points in the chat and great discussion. So thank you all. Oh, that's an interesting one. I don't know if Tim or Tom have come across that. From Namita, how to help L&D partners, leaders in customer organisations who are not prepared or lack the skills to talk about data, and therefore find the traditional, and therefore 2 days of this and 3 hours of that program approach okay. Are there any skill sets that we can identify they should build? So how do we deal with people that aren't prepared or lack the skills to talk about data?
Yeah, I guess that's a good segue to the Measurement Academy, which teaches some of the data fundamentals and the language to use around data, and what would go into your measurement plan, because of course you need to plan out what it is you want to measure and the results you want to achieve before you can go and create your own measurement map. So I think a lot of that, we've just changed to a slide there, and we can put that link in the chat window, but there's a link to the Measurement Academy where you might be able to dig a little bit deeper into that, and reach out to us. Feel free to, spark a conversation if you want to know more. Just looking at the next question down as well. The Measurement Academy itself doesn't lead yet to a certification. Something we are looking into, maybe mapping it also to Credly. So we'll keep you posted on that one.
But that's why we share. We'd encourage to have a look, because you do learn a lot, really practical value stuff as well as you go through. I mean, I am biased, having been through it, but I did find it beneficial personally. So any final or any additional questions? I think we've still got 5 minutes on the clock.
Yeah, we still have 5 minutes. So if anyone else has another question, feel free just to drop it in the chat, and we can pick it up as they're coming in.
I think I spotted a couple in there, John, that again I'll fire over to Tim, because I know he's got the answers to these, because he kind of covered them in his speak. One was when we may not have the data to support the leading indicators, how do you measure results? And Tim, I know it's all about kind of, if that data isn't there, it's about, that's your first step, about finding that data to begin with.
Yeah, go on, Tom.
Well, as you said it when we were going through everything, if that data doesn't exist, the first step in the process is going to get that data and find that data.
Right. Yeah. I guess so. There's part of our approach to modern learning transformation is that discovery phase, which I think, Tom, you're probably referring to. And that's really mapping out activities with your stakeholders and the end users and doing that research piece and then analysis. From that, you begin to build up a picture of what can be measured and what needs to be measured. It's a lot of qualitative and quantitative research, but that discovery phase is certainly key to understanding what, the scope of a measurement piece. Yeah.
I saw a request for the link to be added into the chat box as well to make it a bit easier, so I'll just drop that in for you there.
I can just see there's a question coming from Ben. Are there any models similar to the Kirkpatrick model that include measurement?
Are there any... Say that again, Michael?
Are there any models similar to the Kirkpatrick model that include measurement?
Right. Good question. Ultimately, all the models are designed to measure something, the degree to which it's measurable and how it could be adopted by the business. And that's kind of leads into a story of why the measurement map was created. They're all good frameworks. They don't give us the how. So I think we kind of see them as something to build upon. And we refer to Kirkpatrick today, but there's other ones, Brinkenhoff, that we use, and there's lots of frameworks out there, and they've still got their value. So the measurement map isn't intended to be the be all and end all. What it does is gives you a framework for performance, and that's very much where how we approach learning in GP strategies from a performance perspective. So yeah, there are other models out there. I don't think we've seen anything similar to the measurement map itself. And it's quite a new piece. I think we had this conversation the other day, didn't we, John? I think the measurement map is only a couple of years old, so it's still considered modern. And we've successfully rolled it out with quite a few projects now, some quite sizable, up to 300,000 users, global solutions and programs there for globally their programs. But yeah, good question.
And I do just notice there, so yeah, a quick thank you to Andrew there. He'd also dropped a link into the Brinkerhoff, which you've just mentioned there, Tim. So thank you, Andrew. Part of the team already.
I'm just conscious we've got about 2 minutes left to go, guys. So I don't know if there's anything else that you would like to cover. Any other questions that you would like to pose to John, Tom and Tim before we finish today's session? I'll just give it a few more seconds of anything else to come in. It looks like there's nothing else, guys, coming in on the chat panel. So thank you for joining us today. Thank you, Brock. I can see you're just saying thanks for the session today and the interaction. I will leave John and Tim's details up on the screen there, just so as you're leaving the session, you can pick those up. Thank you guys for joining us today. It's been a really interesting session, and thank you everyone for joining with the interaction. Just before you leave, just to let you know, next in the series of events in the Learning Live digital program is an event that we're hosting next Tuesday, starting again at 12 o'clock, which is around creating a buzz around your learning program. I've just dropped the link into the chat panel, so if you would like to join us for that particular event, then the link is there in the chat panel for you to register and have a look at what the agenda is going to be. But thank you, Tim, Tom, and John. I love the way that just trips off the lips now. Tim, Tom, John. Sounds like it should be a pop group or something like that. Thank you very much indeed for joining us today.